group underground fiber optic cables along South Bay. I think in the area from Chury Road over towards Los Osos Valley Road. Sounded like very minor impacts as the project goes along. They'll dig some holes and run some underground fiber cables, finishing up a project that's been going on for some time. No big issues there. Then number 2 was a request for an interior remodel in a house along with 138 square feet bathroom addition. That's over 5th Street near Santa Isabel Street. No significant areas there or no significant issues. The third was a request for converting an existing single family residence into a vacation rental in the neighborhood just east of South Bay off Los Osos Valley Road in an area that has very large properties. No issues there. And then the last one was a permit for a small shop with a deck on top of it. It was a 325 square foot shop and a 518 square foot deck that was not gonna, did not appear to have any, from an inspection, did not appear to have any kind of impact to the neighborhood with not, with being an eyesore or a problem for someone else's view, something like that. That property was up, I think in Cabrillo Heights. So anyway, we proposed putting this on the consent agenda and would like to go forward with that.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept these items?
Actually, I just have 2 questions, really easy questions. How are the fiber optic cables affected by the Habitat Conservation Plan? I mean, they're trenching and digging, so I'm curious about that. And then for the vacation rental, in a nutshell, can someone remind me, are there so many per neighborhood? Is there so many per Los Osos? Because of course, when it goes from a single family residence to a vacation rental, it takes away the ability of families to be here. So those are my 2 questions.
I can answer, probably answer.
Point of order, Madam Chairman. We need a motion and a second to discuss this item.
Oh, thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Let's have a motion to discuss.
As the chair,
Andrea, maybe you
want
want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion to discuss.
And I'll second it.
Okay, great.
Now we can discuss.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jim.
Okay,
First
so
of all,
with-
Andrea, let me just stop for a second. Your first question about the fiber optic, your audio went out. It was choppy, and we actually didn't understand your question. And then the second question, which has to do with the vacation rental, and Molly, you know the answer to that. If you don't,
Yeah, I think I got the gist of Andrea's question about the underground fiber optic cables. I know they've gone through the permitting. Their project went from over by Highway 1 in Morro Bay and came over South Bay Boulevard, and they had gotten permits with the city of Morro Bay, but then they hadn't gotten permits from the county for all their environmental related stuff, I believe. And then they went and got those permits. So whatever it was they needed, I believe they did actually get for their permits.
Okay, it's only frustrating because we're stymied by the county, and it's not, that's not negative, but we're stymied by the county in planting trees in right of ways because of the HCP. And it just seems odd to me. I'm not going to vote against it, but it seems odd to me that maybe they have an exception because their communication, I don't know.
I don't know, would Claire or Blake know something about that? Anything about that?
I was going to say, I'm interjecting, sorry. My understanding from our meeting is that the reason that this is happening like now is because they had to wait several years to get those approvals from the county. It's the same delay that you're sort of objecting to. But that's why it's now instead of the most of the rest of the cable was 2021, if I'm remembering correctly. I may be incorrect about that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's still, not to belabor it, it still doesn't make sense because the HCP isn't really even if it's underneath the habitat conservation plan, it's still not set up. So I'm just curious.
That's a
And
good
the
question.
vacation
I
rental?
don't,
Go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
oh, I was just gonna pipe in on this one that I don't claim to be a HCP expert, but Andrea is correct. The HCP has technically not been implemented yet. So I don't want to misspeak. So I will just say that I don't know that what requirements that they would have been required to do by the county. And I can speak to the vacation rental too one, but I bet you Molly or anybody else on the council could as well.
Yeah, so the vacation rental ordinance, that's specific to Los Osos, it has a maximum number of these permits that we can issue. I think it's something like gonna be 56 or something like that for the entire community of Los Osos. And they need to each be at least 500 feet property line to property line from one another. And in that area of Los Osos, it's a huge property. I don't know if it's an acre or a couple acres. It's not like the neighborhoods that we live in that are, lots that are 50 by 125 square feet. So there wasn't an issue with that. And Clara reminded me too, when we talked recently, that any vacation rental application coming into the county, they are right away checking to make sure that there's none others within that the 500 feet, so that you're not going to have a heavy impact of a lot of vacation rentals in one little neighborhood. So, and the part about, a house that was probably a rental before this, so we're taking housing stock out of the community. I think our particular group unfortunately does not have control over that. So, if a vacation rental a person owns a property and wants to do that with their rental, if they meet the county's requirements within our ordinance, I believe they're just able to do that.
Thanks.
Okay.
That's helpful.
Any more discussion? I don't see anything. All right. So now end of discussion, on to passing these consent items. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Oh, we have a
I do
motion
that?
already.
No.
Madam Chair,
Oh.
Molly made the motion, I second it. We're calling for a vote at this
Well, then let's call for a vote.
point.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
Any nays? I don't see any. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Jim, would you like to ask a question? Sure.
So I can understand, what are you consenting? I mean, you voted for the consent calendar. What are you approving? I mean, you need a body that makes
the land use items that Molly just talked about.
but you're not the planning commission. So what are you, I'm not understanding.
Our role is as advisor.
So you are
Recommending.
to the planning commission that these be approved?
Correct.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Do you mind if I tag on that one real quick?
Go ahead.
Just to further explain, so any of these projects would get referred out to the community, and LOCAC is the recognized body that would make a recommendation to the hearing body, in this case, the planning commission, on the community's perspective, so that body's going into it, at least with the basic understanding that this has been reviewed by the community and what their position is on before a vote is cast.
can I add one more thing in there too? So with our land use committee, we, just in the spirit of this, is like, we are looking at projects just to look at how, whatever proposed project it is, how will this have any negative impacts for the community? Are there impacts that if we do see something that maybe is a problem, then we might ask for more information from the applicant to get things clarified? Like a while ago, we had a cell phone tower that someone wanted to do. So we asked them, please send us some architectural renderings that show like where in town are we going to see this cell tower from? Because it was 50 feet tall, and what's it going to look like, and that kind of thing. So, if it grossly stood out, we would probably advocate for I don't know, maybe a height reduction or something, but we are advisory only, but we're looking at how our project's going to impact the community or a neighborhood, and are there things that we can do in an advisory council to recommend that, hey, can you do this, that, or the other to decrease the impact? So our whole organization is advisory only, but we're really wanting to be kind of the eyes and ears on the ground to make sure that, you know, neighbors know what's going on, and they can have, you know, at least some input on projects that, you know, are maybe being built right next to them or on their block or whatever.
Great.
So, but again, it is advisory only.
Yes,
So-
thank you, Molly. Well said. Any other questions? And first of all, I appreciate, Jim, you keeping us on track with the motions and the votes. And Jim, I appreciate your question because it was a very good question. Hi, Ron. Did you want to give your report, or are you ready to give a report?
Sure, and I apologize. Our director, Troy Gatchell, was supposed to be on tonight, but something must have come up, so I'm last minute.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll let you go ahead and then we'll finish up with the rest of our business for tonight.
Okay, I'll be really brief. There wasn't much that I had for Troy to speak on. Probably the biggest thing is we do have an election coming up this year for 2 director seats. We have district this time going around, so it's a little more, it's different, not complicated, but you have to live within the district. Our incumbents have indicated they're not running, so we're encouraging people to file for candidacy. And I think the deadline, I don't have that on the top of my head, but with the incumbents not running, I think it's August 19th is the deadline. But if you have questions, please contact me. I can tell you about what it entails to be a director for the CSD, and more than happy to chat with you. Kind of on the waterfront, we are working on 2 more monitoring wells. We've been very successful in installing monitoring wells for seawater intrusion. We have 2 more coming on this year. We are very fortunate. The Morro Bay National Estuary Program has been donating or granting us money to help with those expenses. So those are coming up. And finally, again, kind of a different type of thing. We do have an opening for a water resource operator on our water crew. So if you know anybody that wants to get into a great organization with a career potential in water, let me know. And that's all I have for tonight.
All right, thank you for your CSD report. I appreciate you coming in at the last minute.
No
Thank you,
worries.
Ron. Okay, any questions for Ron? I don't see any questions. All right, we don't have any regular agenda items, so we're going to go on to our business items. Yes, Jim, you have a question.
Yeah, on the business items, since we're there, my district is District 2, not District 1.
Oh, okay.
I live on the 1600 block of 6th Street, which is in between Ramona and Pismo, and that's in District 2.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that. So I stand corrected. We are missing someone in District 1, not District 2, because we are about to bring on 2 wonderful applicants to our council. Jim, would you like to say a little bit about yourself? How long you've lived in Los Osos?
Sure. Thank you, Deborah. My name is Jim Salio. I lived in Los Osos for 35 years. I worked for 32 years for the County of San Luis Obispo in the probation department. I spent the last 12 years as the chief probation officer for the county. I retired in 2020. And now that I'm retired, I'm looking to get involved in the community. And I think LOCAC looks like an excellent opportunity for me to be involved in my community, which I love Los Osos dearly. And I've always loved living here. And my daughter lives here, and her husband, and my granddaughter. And so I want nothing but the best for this community.
Great, thank you. All right. Let's make a motion and a second and take a vote on Jim's appointment to the council.
I enthusiastically motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm honored.
All right. Well, we're happy to have you. And Brad, your turn. Would you like to introduce yourself? We just need you to unmute. Hold on a second.
It's for some reason it's Deborah, I asked him to, but it's not doing anything. Is it working for you?
Let me see. Can you unmute yourself, Brad? There
Yep,
you go.
There we
How
go.
about that? Can you hear me
Yeah.
now?
Great. Yes.
Okay, my name's Brad Spar. My wife and I have lived here for about 10 years, but we have been coming up here for well over 20. We lived in Santa Clarita in Southern California, and my son and his family live here. So we are well acquainted with the area and with the community. In our married life, we've lived all over the country. We've lived in New England, we've lived in Maryland, Virginia, Florida, Texas, and Southern California. But when we arrived here, it was like, oh, this is it. It's a unique community, and it's not for everyone, certainly. But if you like it, there's no better place, and that's where we are. Having been retired now for 6 years, I'm interested in getting involved in the community more. And I think there are some really good issues that need work. One is maintaining what we have here. It's unique, and I think all of us realize that. But at the same time, the place is kind of stagnant. It hasn't had any real growth. I think I read that there are building permits going back to the 90s that are some of the 230 or 260 that are out there. So it seems like there's a real challenge here to get some good productive growth that will improve the quality of life in our community, and at the same time hold on to what we have. So that's kind of what I see as the challenge, and it looks like an interesting one. So that's why I'm here.
Great. Thank you, Brad. Do I have a motion and a second?
Another enthusiastic endorsement.
I like you, Jim.
I'll second.
And Molly, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Welcome, both of you. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Jim. I will be sending you an email tomorrow, and welcome aboard. And unless we have any other questions or comments, I think this meeting will be adjourned.
Nice job, Deborah.
Hey,
All right,
nice
well,
job.
thank
I
you.
love it.
Well done,
Thanks,
Deborah.
everybody.
Less than an hour, unheard of.
Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
everyone.
Okay, good night.
So